Ibn Khaldun was an Arab sociologist, philosopher, and historian, considered one of the greatest social scientists of the Middle Ages. He is often regarded as the father of historiography, sociology, economics, and demography studies. His best-known book, the Muqaddimah, written in 6 months, influenced Ottoman historians like Katib Shalebi, Mustafa Naima, and Ahmed Sevdet Pasha, who used its theories to analyze the Ottoman Empire's growth and decline. Ibn Khaldun interacted with Tamerlane, the founder of the Timurid Empire, and is recognized as a prominent Muslim and Arab scholar and historian. Recently, Ibn Khaldun's works have been compared with European philosophers like Machiavelli, Vico, Hume, Hegel, Marx, and Kant, as well as economists Ricardo and Smith, suggesting their ideas found precedent in his. He has also influenced certain modern Islamic thinkers. Ibn Khaldun's life is well documented through his autobiography, presenting Ibn Khaldun and his journey west and east. Abu Zayd Abdu Arrahman bin Muhammad bin Khaldun al-Hadrami, known as Ibn Khaldun, was born in Tunis in 1332 into an upper-class Andalusian family of Arab descent. The family's ancestor was a Hadrami related to Ibn Hujr, a companion of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. They emigrated to Tunisia after Seville fell to the Reconquista in 1248. Some family members held political office in the Tunisian Hafsid dynasty, but his father and grandfather later withdrew from politics to join a mystical order. His brother, Yahya Khaldun, was a historian who wrote about the Abdulwahid dynasty and was assassinated by a rival for being the official historiographer of the court. In his autobiography, Khaldun traces his descent back to Muhammad through an Arab tribe from the Hadramaut, which came to the Iberian Peninsula in the 8th century. His family's high rank enabled Ibn Khaldun to study with prominent teachers in Maghreb. He received a classical Islamic education, studying the Quran, Arabic linguistics, Hadith, Sharia, and Fiqh, receiving certification for all. Al-Abalai introduced him to mathematics, logic, and philosophy. At 17, Ibn Khaldun lost both his parents to the Black Death, an epidemic that hit Tunis in 1348 to 1349. Following family tradition, he pursued a political career, requiring skill in alliances to navigate the tumultuous political situation in North Africa. Ibn Khaldun's autobiography tells of an adventure, including time in prison, reaching high offices, and exile. At 20, he began his political career in the chancellery of the Tunisian ruler Ibn Tafrikan, writing introductory notes for official documents. In 1352, Abu Ziyad, the Sultan of Constantine, defeated Tunis. Unhappy with his position, Ibn Khaldun followed his teacher Abalai to Fez, where the Marinid Sultan, Abu Anan Ferzai, appointed him as a writer of royal proclamations. Ibn Khaldun schemed against his employer, leading to a 22-month prison sentence. Upon Abu Anan's death, Vizier Al-Hassan ibn Umar freed him and reinstated him. He then schemed against Abu Anan's successor, Abu Salim Ibrahim III. When Abu Salim came to power, he gave Ibn Khaldun a ministerial position, the first to match his ambitions. The treatment that Ibn Khaldun received after the fall of Abu Salim through Ibn Umar Abdullah, a friend of Ibn Khaldun's, was not to his liking, as he received no significant official position. At the same time, Umar successfully prevented Ibn Khaldun from allying with the Abd al-Wadids in Tlemcen. Ibn Khaldun decided to move to Granada, where he was sure of a positive welcome, having helped the Sultan of Granada, Muhammad V, regain power. In 1364, Muhammad entrusted him with a diplomatic mission to the King of Castile, Pedro the Cruel, to endorse a peace treaty. Ibn Khaldun successfully carried out the mission and declined Pedro's offer to remain at his court. In Granada, he came into competition with Muhammad's vizier, Ibn al-Khatib, who viewed the relationship between Muhammad and Ibn Khaldun with mistrust. Ibn Khaldun tried to shape Muhammad into his ideal of a wise ruler, which Ibn al-Khatib thought was foolish and dangerous. Due to al-Khatib's influence, Ibn Khaldun was sent back to North Africa. Al-Khatib was later accused of unorthodox views and murdered. In his autobiography, Ibn Khaldun tells little about his conflict with Ibn al-Khatib. Orientalist Muhsin Mahdi interprets this as Ibn Khaldun realizing he misjudged Muhammad V. Back in Afriqiya, the Hafsid Sultan of Bajaya, Abu Abdal, made him prime minister. Ibn Khaldun carried out a daring mission to collect taxes among the Berber tribes. After Abu Abdullah's death, he allied with the Sultan of Tlemcen, Abu el-Abbas. He was later taken prisoner by Abu Faris Abdul Aziz, who seized the throne. Ibn Khaldun entered a monastic establishment and occupied himself with scholastic duties until 1370. In that year, he was summoned to Tlemcen by the new sultan. After Abdu el-Aziz's death, he resided at Fez, enjoying the patronage and confidence of the regent. Hit the subscribe button now and become part of our growing community of history enthusiasts. Let's uncover the mysteries of the past together. Ibn Khaldun's political skills and his good relationship with the Berber tribes were in high demand among North African rulers. But he grew tired of politics and switching allegiances. In 1375, he was sent by Abu Hammu on a mission to the Dawadida Arabs tribes of Biskra. After returning, Ibn Khaldun sought refuge with a Berber tribe in Khalat ibn Salama, Algeria, where he lived for over 3 years. He used this time to write the Muqaddimah, the introduction to his planned history of the world, but lacked necessary texts to complete it. In 1378, he returned to Tunis, now under Abu el-Abbas, who took him back into service. Ibn Khaldun focused on his studies and completed his history of the world, but his relationship with Abu el-Abbas was strained, especially after omitting a panegyric to the ruler. Under the pretense of going on the Hajj, Ibn Khaldun left Tunis for Alexandria. He praised Egypt, noting its prosperity and high culture compared to other Islamic regions. In 1384, Sultan Barkok made him professor and Grand Qadi of the Maliki school of fiqh. His reform efforts met resistance, and he resigned within a year. In 1384, a ship carrying his family sank off Alexandria. After returning from Mecca in 1388, he focused on teaching in Cairo. He fell from favor at the Mamluk court after issuing a fatwa against Barkok. Later, relations with Barkok normalized, and he was named Maliki Qadi again. He was appointed to this high office 6 times, but for various reasons, never held it long. In 1401, under Barkok's successor, his son Faraj, Ibn Khaldun took part in a military campaign against the Mongol conqueror, Timur, who besieged Damascus in 1400. Ibn Khaldun cast doubt upon the viability of the venture and really wanted to stay in Egypt. His doubts were vindicated, as the young and inexperienced Faraj, concerned about a revolt in Egypt, left his army to its own devices in Syria and hurried home. Ibn Khaldun remained at the besieged city for 7 weeks, being lowered over the city wall by ropes to negotiate with Timur. In a historic series of meetings that he reported extensively in his autobiography, Timur questioned him in detail about conditions in the lands of the Maghreb. At his request, Ibn Khaldun even wrote a long report about it. As he recognized Timur's intentions, he did not hesitate, on his return to Egypt, to compose an equally extensive report on the history of the Tatars, together with a character study of Timur, sending them to the Marinid rulers in Fez. Ibn Khaldun spent the next 5 years in Cairo, completing his autobiography and his history of the world and acting as teacher and judge. Meanwhile, he was alleged to have joined an underground party, Rijal Hawa Rijal, whose reform-oriented ideals attracted the attention of local political authorities. The elderly Ibn Khaldun was placed under arrest. He died on March 17, 1406, 1 month after his 6th election for the office of the Maliki Qadi. Ibn Khaldun sought to reconcile mysticism with theology by dividing science into 2 different categories: religious science, which pertains to the sciences of the Quran, and non-religious science. He further classified the non-religious sciences into intellectual sciences such as logic, arithmetic, geometry, astronomy, etc., and auxiliary sciences such as language, literature, poetry, etc. He also suggested that more divisions might emerge in the future as societies evolve. He aimed to adapt to the cultural behaviors and influences of different societies in education, economics, and politics. Nonetheless, he did not believe that laws were chosen by a single leader or a small group of individuals, but rather by the majority of individuals in a society. To Ibn Khaldun, the state was a necessity for human society to restrain injustice within the community, but the means of the state is force, which makes it an injustice itself. Every society must have a state to establish it. Another way to distinguish the achievements of a society was through its language. As for Ibn Khaldun, the most important element of a society was not its land, but its language. He was surprised that many non-Arabs were successful in Arabic society, holding good jobs and being well received by the community. These people were non-Arab by descent, but they grew up among the Arabs who possessed the habit of Arabic, Ibn Khaldun once recalled. Because of this, they were able to master Arabic so well that they cannot be surpassed. Advancements in literary works, such as poetry and prose, were another way to distinguish the achievements of a civilization. However, Ibn Khaldun believed that when the literary aspect of a society reaches its highest levels, it no longer reflects societal achievements but becomes an embellishment of life. For logical sciences, he considered the highest level of knowledge to be the increase in scholars and the quality of knowledge. For him, the highest level of literary production represented prose, poetry, and the artistic enrichment of a society. Regarding religious thought, Ibn Khaldun believed that communication between the tangible and intangible worlds was the foundation of every religion, with the human spirit being the mediator between God and humans. The spirit is immortal by nature and is capable of communicating with God, but most souls have lost this ability and are connected only to the sensory world. A small number of souls maintain their full ability to communicate with God, and these are the ones God chose to become prophets. Their souls leave the sensory world to receive divine messages. He believed that religions that rely on prediction and reconnaissance institutions are false, though they may contain some truth. A person's intense focus on a specific thing for a long time causes them to forget everything else and become attached to what they focus on, allowing them to see the non-sensory world, albeit in an imperfect way, which leads to pagan religions. Ibn Khaldun agreed with Sufism, believing that if a person maintains good faith, avoids creating new religions, and strives to detach from the sensory world, they can approach the divine essence and gain clarity in their thoughts. However, if they engage in mysticism to surpass others, they would not communicate with God but with demons. Moreover, the human spirit is capable of seeing some future events through visions, but only if the spirit is upright and pure.